The notification sound from my phone cut through the silence of my empty kitchen like a blade. Another text from my granddaughter Emma, age 12. "Grandpa, why don't you want to see us anymore? Dad says you don't care about us." I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold in my hands. 23 years I'd been a father to Jake, and this is what it came to? Him poisoning his own children against me. But I had every text message saved, every single one. My fingers trembled as I scrolled back through months of conversations. Messages to Jake about wanting to see the kids. His responses getting shorter, colder. Excuses piling up like autumn leaves. They're busy with school. Maybe next weekend. The kids have other plans. But the kids didn't know about those messages. They only knew what their father told them. Emma's text cut deeper because I could hear her voice in those words. Confused, hurt, thinking her grandfather had abandoned her. She didn't know about the birthday presents I bought and never been allowed to deliver. She didn't know about the soccer games I'd been uninvited to. She didn't know about the sleepless nights I spent wondering what I'd done wrong. My name is David Peterson. I'm 54 years old, and I'm watching my family disintegrate in real time. I set the phone down and walked to the living room window of my ranch house in Westfield, Indiana. The suburbs stretched out before me. Manicured lawns, two-car driveways, the American dream wrapped in vinyl siding. I'd worked 30 years at Cummins Engine Company to afford this life, to give Jake opportunities I never had. Now he lived 20 minutes away and might as well have been on another planet. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd grown up with a father who worked double shifts and barely spoke to me. I swore I'd be different with Jake, present, involved, supportive. Maybe I'd been too supportive. Maybe that was the problem. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my grandson Tyler, 14. "Mom says we shouldn't bother you anymore since you're too busy for us." Mom, that would be Sandra, Jake's ex-wife, the one who'd fought for joint custody and somehow Jake had convinced to keep the kids away from me too. The whole family had closed ranks against me, and I still didn't understand why. I scrolled through my contacts and found Jake's number. We hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, not since our last argument about the kids' Christmas plans. He'd accused me of being controlling, of trying to manipulate the situation. I'd accused him of being selfish, of using his children as weapons. Both of us had said things we couldn't take back. But enough was enough. I hit call. It rang 4 times before he answered. "What do you want, Dad?" His voice carried that edge I'd learned to recognize over the past year. Defensive, irritated, like I was interrupting something important. "I want to talk to you about the kids. We've talked about this. They're fine. They're texting me, Jake, Emma, and Tyler. They think I don't want to see them." Silence stretched between us. I could hear traffic in the background, probably driving home from his job at the insurance agency downtown. "I never told them that," he said finally. "Then what did you tell them?" "The truth, that you're going through a difficult time, and it's better if we give you space." "Whose decision was that? Mine or yours?" Another pause. "Dad, we both know you're not handling Mom's death well. The drinking, the angry phone calls." "What drinking?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "I had 3 beers at your house last month, and suddenly I'm an alcoholic?" "It's not just the drinking. It's everything. The way you interrogate the kids about what Sandra's doing. The way you criticize every decision we make. The way you act like we owe you something." I gripped the phone tighter. My wife Linda had died 8 months ago, a heart attack at 51 that came out of nowhere. Jake was right that I wasn't handling it well. But using my grief to justify cutting me out of my grandchildren's lives felt like a betrayal beyond words. "Those kids are all I have left," I said quietly. "No, Dad, They're not your emotional support system. They're kids. They have their own problems, their own lives. I'm not trying to use them. I'm trying to be their grandfather. By showing up uninvited to Tyler's basketball practice? By calling Emma's school to check on her grades without asking us first? Each accusation hit like a physical blow. I had done those things. In the months after Linda's funeral, I'd been desperate to maintain connections, to feel useful, to not disappear entirely from their lives. Maybe I'd overstepped. Maybe I'd pushed too hard. But that didn't justify this. So your solution is to lie to them? To make them think their grandfather doesn't love them? I never said you didn't love them. Then why are they texting me asking why I don't want to see them anymore? The line went quiet again. I could hear him breathing, could picture him running his hand through his hair, the way he'd done since he was a kid when he was frustrated. Sandra thinks it's better this way, he said finally. Sandra. I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. So this is her idea? Don't blame Sandra. She's trying to protect her kids. Her kids? They're your kids too, Jake. And they're my grandchildren. I have rights. You have whatever rights we decide to give you. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. In that moment, I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding or a temporary rift. This was a deliberate campaign to erase me from their lives. I see. Dad, look, maybe in a few months when you've had time to... I hung up. My hands were shaking as I set the phone on the coffee table. The house felt impossibly quiet around me. Linda's reading chair still sat in the corner, her bookmark still marking her place in a romance novel she'd never finish. The grandkids' drawings still decorated the refrigerator, stick figures with huge smiles, and "I love Grandpa" written in crayon. I walked to the kitchen and opened the drawer where I kept important papers. Insurance documents, Linda's death certificate, the will. And underneath all of that, a manila folder I'd been compiling without really knowing why. Screenshots of text messages, printed emails, a timeline of events over the past 8 months. I'd been keeping records instinctively, the way an engineer documents a system failure. Every attempt I'd made to see the kids, every excuse Jake had given, every canceled plan, every broken promise, every gradual reduction in contact. The evidence was damning, not against me, against him. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. If Jake wanted to play games with my grandchildren's affections, if he wanted to rewrite history and make me the villain, then he was about to learn something about his old man. I'd spent 30 years in manufacturing, and we had a saying, "In God we trust. Everyone else must bring data." Time to bring the data. I photographed every text message exchange from the past 6 months. Jake asking to borrow money for Tyler's baseball equipment. Approved. Me asking to attend Tyler's games. Denied. Jake needing a babysitter for Emma during a work conference. I volunteered. Jake needing someone to watch the kids while he went on a weekend trip with his new girlfriend. Suddenly, Sandra's mother was available instead. The pattern was clear. I was good enough when they needed something, but not good enough to be included when it mattered. My phone rang. Jake calling back. "Dad, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hang up on you like that." "You didn't hang up on me. I hung up on you." "Right. Listen, I know this is hard. Losing Mom was hard on all of us, but we need to think about what's best for Emma and Tyler." "And what's best for them is thinking their grandfather abandoned them?" "That's not what they think." "That's exactly what they think. I have their text messages, Jake. They're asking me why I don't want to see them anymore." A longer pause this time. "Maybe we should meet in person, talk this through properly." "Where?" "How about that diner on Main Street? Tomorrow at lunch?" I almost said yes, almost fell back into our old pattern. Me accommodating, me trying to fix things, me being the reasonable one. But something Linda used to say stopped me. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. "No," I said. "If you want to talk, you can come here, Sunday at 2 o'clock, and bring the kids." "Dad, I don't think that's a good idea." "Those are my terms, Jake. You want to have this conversation? We have it in front of Emma and Tyler. They deserve to hear the truth." "What truth?" "All of it. Every text message, every phone call, every time I asked to see them and you said no, every excuse you made, every lie you told." They're old enough to understand what's really been happening here. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. "You're making this into a war," he said finally. "I'm not making this into anything. You declared war 8 months ago. I'm just finally deciding to fight back. If you do this, if you drag the kids into this, there won't be any going back. There's already no going back, son. You made sure of that." I ended the call and sat in the quiet kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of a life I'd spent 5 decades building. The family photos on the refrigerator. The coffee mug Linda had given me that said, "World's Best Grandpa." The drawing Emma had made of our whole family holding hands, including Sandra, even after the divorce, because Emma was the kind of kid who wanted everyone to get along. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from Tyler. "Grandpa, are you sick? Dad says you might be sick, and that's why we can't see you." I stared at the message for a long time. Jake was escalating, creating new lies to explain my absence. Soon it would be cancer or dementia or some other fabrication designed to make the kids pity me instead of miss me. But Tyler's message also revealed something else. The kids were pushing back. They were asking questions. They wanted to see me badly enough to keep reaching out despite whatever story they were being told. I typed back, "I'm not sick, buddy. I missed you and Emma very much. I've been trying to see you for months, but there have been some misunderstandings with your dad. Would you like to come over Sunday and we can talk about it?" The response came back immediately. "Yes, can Emma come too?" "Of course. Ask your dad to bring you both over Sunday at 2 p.m. He says he doesn't think that's a good idea. Tell him Grandpa said it's not a request." I set the phone down and walked to the basement. In the corner, covered by a tarp, sat something I hadn't looked at in months, Linda's exercise bike. She'd ridden it every morning while watching the news, said it was the only way she could stand to hear what was happening in the world. I pulled off the tarp and climbed on. The seat was still adjusted to her height. The water bottle holder still contained her favorite brand of electrolyte drink. I started pedaling slowly, my legs protesting after months of inactivity. Linda would have known how to handle this situation. She'd always been better with people, better at navigating family drama without making it worse. She would have found a way to bring Jake around to make peace without anyone losing face. But Linda was gone, and I was learning that grief doesn't make you a better person. It just makes you more yourself, stripping away the polite facades and social graces that keep families functioning. The truth was, I'd never really gotten along with Jake as an adult. We'd been fine when he was a kid. I'd coached his little league team, taught him to drive, helped him with homework. But somewhere in his 20s, he'd started seeing me as an embarrassment. Too blue-collar, too direct, too much of a reminder of where he'd come from. He'd worked hard to reinvent himself after college, trading his Carhartt jackets for button-downs, his plain speaking for corporate jargon. He'd married Sandra partly because she came from money, had connections, could help him climb the social ladder in ways his factory worker father never could. The divorce had actually brought us closer together for a while. He'd needed my help with the kids, needed someone who understood what it meant to rebuild your life from scratch. But then Linda died, and suddenly my grief was inconvenient, my neediness was a burden, my very presence was a reminder that life doesn't always turn out the way you plan. I pedaled harder, sweat beginning to bead on my forehead. The basement smelled like concrete and motor oil, like the garage where I taught Jake to change a tire when he was 16. He'd been frustrated with how long it took, impatient to get back to whatever video game he'd been playing. "Slow down," I told him. "Do it right the first time and you won't have to do it again. Why can't we just call AAA?" "Because someday AA might not be available. Someday you might be on your own." He'd rolled his eyes, but he'd learned. I'd made sure of that. Now I wondered if I'd taught him too well. He'd become completely self-sufficient, no longer needing the old man who'd shown him how to navigate the world. And once Linda was gone, once I was just another burden instead of half of a team, it had been easy enough to phase me out. My phone rang again. This time it was Sandra. "David, we need to talk." Sandra's voice carried that careful tone she used when she was trying to manage a situation. She'd been a marketing executive before the kids were born, and she still approached every conversation like a business negotiation. "Hello, Sandra. Jake told me about your conversation, about Sunday." "And?" "The kids are confused enough already. Dragging them into adult problems isn't going to help anyone." "They're already in adult problems, Sandra. You made sure of that when you started telling them lies about me." "I never lied about you." "Then why does Emma think I don't want to see her? Why does Tyler think I'm sick? Where are these ideas coming from?" A pause. "David, you have to understand. After Linda died, you became very intense with the children. It was concerning." "Intense how?" "The constant phone calls, the surprise visits, the way you questioned everything we did as parents. Emma came home from your house once saying you told her that her dad used to be different, that he'd changed. Do you understand how that sounds to a 12-year-old? I closed my eyes. I had said that 3 months ago when Emma asked why her dad and I didn't talk the way we used to. I'd been missing Linda. Missing the version of Jake who used to call just to chat. Missing the family dinners where we all laughed together. I was grieving, I said. I know. But grief doesn't excuse hurting children. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. Intent doesn't matter, David. Impact matters. And the impact of your behavior was that Emma started worrying that her parents' divorce was somehow her fault, that maybe she was the reason her father had changed. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Emma, my sweet granddaughter who drew pictures of our whole family holding hands, blaming herself for problems she didn't create. I can explain that to her, I said. I can apologize. You can't undo damage by explaining it away. That's not how children work. So your solution is to cut me out entirely? To let her think her grandfather doesn't love her? Our solution was to give everyone space to heal, including you. For how long? Another pause. As long as it takes. That's not an answer, Sandra. It's the only answer I have right now. I could hear voices in the background, the kids getting home from school, backpacks hitting the floor, the ordinary chaos of family life that I was no longer part of. Can I talk to them? I asked. Just for a minute? David, please. I won't say anything about Sunday. I just want to hear their voices. The silence stretched long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then Emma's voice came through the speaker. Grandpa? My throat tightened. Hey, sweetheart. How was school? It was okay. We're reading Bridge to Terabithia in English class. It's really sad. I remember reading that book with your dad when he was about your age. He cried at the ending. Emma giggled. Dad cried? Oh yeah. He tried to hide it, but I saw those tears. Grandpa, are you really sick? Dad says you might be sick. I glanced toward the stairs, knowing Sandra was probably listening. No, honey, I'm not sick. I'm just very sad because I miss Grandma Linda and I miss you and Tyler. We miss you too. When can we come over? I want to show you the necklace I made in art class. My chest felt tight. I'd love to see that necklace, Emma. Maybe soon. This weekend? Before I could answer, Sandra's voice cut in. Emma, say goodbye to Grandpa. You have homework to do. But Mom, say goodbye. Bye, Grandpa. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you know. The line went dead. I sat in the basement for a long time after that, still on Linda's exercise bike, not pedaling anymore. The house creaked around me, settling into evening.
Through the small basement windows, I could see the last of the daylight fading. Saturday morning came gray and cold, typical for November in Indiana. I'd slept poorly, waking every hour or so to check my phone for messages that never came. By 7 a.m., I'd given up on sleep entirely and was sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and the manila folder full of documentation.
If Jake brought the kids tomorrow, and that was a big if, I needed to be prepared. Not just with evidence, but with the right words. Emma and Tyler deserved better than a bitter grandfather airing grievances. They deserved the truth, but delivered with love, not anger. I opened my laptop and started typing. Dear Emma and Tyler, I know you've been told that Grandpa doesn't want to see you anymore, or that Grandpa is too sick to spend time with you. I want you to know that neither of those things is true. Since Grandma Linda died, I have missed you both very much. I have asked your father many times if I could see you, take you to dinner, come to your games, or have you over for a sleepover. Each time, he has said no. I don't want you to be angry at your father or your mother. They love you and they're trying to protect you. But I also don't want you to think that your grandfather stopped caring about you, because that could never happen. You are the most important people in my life. Emma, I think about your laugh every day. Tyler, I'm proud of how hard you work at school and basketball. I have saved every drawing, every school paper, every photo you've given me. I will always be your grandfather, and I will always love you, even if we can't see each other as much as I'd like. Love, Grandpa. I printed 2 copies and folded them carefully. If tomorrow went badly, if Jake decided not to bring the kids or the conversation turned ugly, I wanted them to have something concrete to hold on to. The morning dragged by. I cleaned the house, vacuumed Linda's chair, made sure the refrigerator was stocked with the snacks Emma and Tyler liked. I set up the card table in the living room in case they wanted to work on a puzzle. I charged the old Nintendo system that Jake had played as a kid, thinking Tyler might get a kick out of the vintage games. At noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Dad, the kids are asking about tomorrow. I told them we might come by, but I'm still not sure this is a good idea. I typed back, they deserve to know the truth, all of it. According to who? According to the text messages, according to the phone records, according to the timeline of every interaction we've had since Mom died. You've been keeping records. An engineer's habit, data doesn't lie. No response. An hour later, another text. Fine, we'll be there at 2. But if this turns into some kind of ambush or manipulation, we're leaving immediately. Understood. Sunday morning, I woke with the kind of nervous energy I hadn't felt since my wedding day 32 years ago. The house was spotless, the snacks were ready, and I'd rehearsed what I wanted to say a dozen times. But I still felt like I was preparing for the most important presentation of my life. At 1:30, I saw Jake's Honda Pilot pull into my driveway. Through the front window, I could see all 3 of them, Jake in the driver's seat looking grim, Emma bouncing excitedly in the back, Tyler staring at his phone with the studied indifference of a teenager. Jake knocked instead of using his key, a small gesture that spoke volumes about how he saw this visit. I opened the door to find my son wearing his work clothes, khakis and a polo shirt that made him look like he was ready to flee at any moment. "Dad," he said with a nod. "Grandpa!" Emma launched herself at me with a hug that nearly knocked me over. She'd grown since I'd last seen her, taller, skinnier, more grown up somehow, but her hug felt exactly the same. Tyler hung back, offering a shy wave. "Hey, Grandpa." "Hey, buddy. You get any taller and you're going to be looking down at me pretty soon." He grinned despite himself. "Coach says I grew 3 inches this year." 3 inches? No wonder your father looks nervous. Pretty soon you'll be asking to borrow his car. "Dad already said I can't drive until I'm 16, Tyler said, even though Marcus's brother got his permit at 15. Your dad's just being careful. Some things are worth waiting for." Jake cleared his throat. Should we sit down? Get this over with? Emma looked confused. Get what over with? I gestured toward the living room. Come on in. I made some of those cookies you like, Emma. And Tyler, I got that brand of chips you're always eating. Doritos? Tyler perked up. Cool. We settled into the living room. The kids on the couch, Jake in Linda's old chair, me in my recliner. For a moment, it felt almost normal. Just a family spending Sunday afternoon together. Emma spotted the card table. Are we going to do a puzzle? If you want to. I got that one with all the dogs that you liked last time. Can we start it after we talk? She looked between Jake and me with the intuitive awareness that kids have when adults are about to have a serious conversation. Jake leaned forward, hands clasped. Emma, Tyler, your grandfather wanted to talk to you about some things, about why we haven't been over here as much lately. Because he doesn't want to see us? Emma asked quietly. The question hung in the air like smoke. I could see Jake tense, probably expecting me to explode or start making accusations. Instead, I reached for the manila folder. Emma, sweetheart, can you read? I pulled out my phone and opened the text thread with Jake. Can you read this message I sent your dad 3 weeks ago? Emma took the phone and read aloud. Hey Jake, Emma's school play is Friday night. I'd love to come watch her. Can you send me the details? Now read your dad's response. Sorry, Dad, it's sold out. Maybe next time. I pulled out a printed screenshot. This is from the school's website the day before the play. See what it says? Tyler leaned over to look. Tickets still available. Purchase at the door. Emma looked confused. Dad, why did you tell Grandpa it was sold out? Jake's face had gone pale. Emma, this is more complicated than... Let me show you more, I said gently. I spread out printouts on the coffee table like a detective presenting evidence. Here's me asking to take you both to lunch for Tyler's birthday. Here's your dad saying you were busy. Here's me offering to watch you while your parents went to that wedding in Chicago. Here's your dad saying Sandra's mother was already planning to do it. Tyler picked up one of the screenshots. This is you asking to come to my basketball game? October 15th. You scored 18 points. Your coach called me the next day to tell me how well you played because he thought I'd been there. You weren't there, Tyler said, confusion creeping into his voice. Because your dad told me the game was canceled. But it wasn't canceled, was it? Tyler looked at Jake. Dad? Jake stood up abruptly. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You're manipulating them, making me look like the bad guy. I'm showing them the truth. I kept my voice calm. Every text message, every phone call, every time I asked to be part of their lives and was told no. Emma was scrolling through more messages on my phone. Grandpa, you asked to see us a lot. Every week, sweetheart, sometimes more. But Dad said you were too sad about Grandma and needed space. I was very sad about Grandma. I still am. But being with you and Tyler makes me feel better, not worse. Jake ran his hand through his hair, the old gesture I remembered from his childhood. Dad, you were overwhelming them. The constant phone calls, the questions about what we were doing, the criticism? What criticism? I looked at the kids. Have I ever criticized your parents to you? Emma shook her head. You always say nice things about Mom and Dad. The closest I came was telling Emma that you used to call me more often when you were younger. That's not criticism, Jake. That's grief. Tyler was looking through more screenshots. Dad, why did you tell him we were going to Florida for Christmas? We're not going to Florida. Jake sat back down heavily. Tyler, this is adult stuff. No. Tyler's voice was firmer than I'd ever heard it. At 14, he was old enough to recognize deception when he saw it. This isn't adult stuff. This is lying. You lied to Grandpa, and you lied to us. Emma was crying now, quiet tears that broke my heart. Why didn't you want us to see Grandpa? Jake looked at his daughter, then at his son, then at me. For a moment, I saw the little boy who used to confess his mistakes readily.
who wore his emotions on his sleeve before the world taught him to hide them. "Because I was scared," he said finally. "Scared of what?" Tyler asked. "Scared that you'd see how much pain Grandpa was in and it would scare you. Scared that his grief would make you worry about losing me or your mom the same way. Scared that—" He trailed off, but I knew what he couldn't say. Scared that the kids would see their grandfather fall apart and realize that adults don't have everything figured out.
Scared that my raw grief would strip away the comfortable illusion that parents are invincible. Scared that— "What?" Emma pressed. Jake looked at me, and for the first time in months, I saw my son instead of my adversary. "Scared that you'd love him more than me," he whispered. The admission hung in the room like a confession. Emma got up from the couch and went to Jake, wrapping her thin arms around his shoulders. "Dad, that's silly. We love you and Grandpa differently, like how we love ice cream and pizza differently." Tyler nodded. "You're our dad. Grandpa's our grandpa. It's not the same thing." I felt something shift in my chest, anger dissolving into something more complicated. Jake wasn't a villain. He was a scared man trying to protect his children from a pain he didn't understand how to manage. He'd made the wrong choice, but he'd made it out of love. "Jake," I said quietly, "I'm not trying to replace you. I never was." He looked at me with eyes that suddenly looked much younger than his 37 years. "I know that. Logically, I know that. But after Mom died, when you were so intense about everything, it felt like you were trying to step in as their primary male figure or something. I was trying not to disappear. When Linda died, I felt like I was disappearing from everyone's life, including yours." Emma was still hugging Jake, but she was looking at me. "Grandpa, you're not disappearing. We think about you all the time." "We do," Tyler confirmed. "Emma talks about you at dinner sometimes, about things you taught her or jokes you told us." Jake wiped his eyes. "They do. And I was jealous. After Mom died, you became this important figure in their lives, and I felt like I was just the guy who drove them places and paid for things." "Jake, you're their father. That's irreplaceable. Then why did it feel like they needed you more than me?" I thought about that question, about the months after Linda's death when I'd been desperate for connection, when I'd leaned on Emma and Tyler's unconditional love to get through the worst days. Maybe because they did, for a while. "And that scared you." He nodded slowly. "It terrified me. I kept thinking, what if something happened to me? What if they were closer to you than to me?" Emma pulled back to look at her father. "Dad, you're the best dad in the world. Just because we love Grandpa doesn't mean we don't love you." "Can I say something?" Tyler interjected. We all looked at him, the quiet observer who usually let Emma do the talking. "This whole thing has been really dumb." Jake laughed despite himself. "Dumb how?" "You were scared we'd love Grandpa too much, so you kept us away from him, which made us miss him more, which made us ask about him more, which made you more scared. It's like circular stupidity." "Circular stupidity?" I repeated. Tyler shrugged. "That's what Mom calls it when someone makes a problem worse by trying to fix it." Sandra. I'd almost forgotten she was part of this equation too. "Speaking of your mom," I said, "does she know you're here?" Jake nodded. "She's the one who convinced me to come. She said hiding from problems doesn't make them go away." Smart woman. "Yeah. She also said she missed having you around. The kids weren't the only ones asking about you. I felt something loosen in my chest that I hadn't realized had been tight. I miss her too. I miss all of you." Emma had moved from Jake to me, climbing into my lap like she used to do when she was smaller. "Can we see you more now, like before?" "That depends on your dad." Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring at the evidence spread across the coffee table. Screenshots of months of deception, of manufactured distance, of a family torn apart by fear and grief and pride. "Dad, I owe you an apology, a big one. We both made mistakes. No, this is on me. I let my insecurity turn into something ugly. I convinced myself I was protecting the kids, but I was really just protecting myself. Tyler picked up another screenshot. Dad, look at this one. Grandpa asking if he could help with my science project. You told him I was doing it with a friend. I did it by myself, Tyler said quietly. I could have used the help. Jake's face crumpled slightly. Buddy, I'm so sorry. It's okay. But can we not do this anymore? The lying and the keeping secrets and stuff? No more lies, Jake promised. And no more keeping you away from Grandpa, unless there's a real reason. Emma looked up at me from my lap. Grandpa, are you going to be okay? Without Grandma Linda? The question caught me off guard. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I realized I had an answer. I'm going to be sad about Grandma for a long time, sweetheart. Probably forever. But I'm going to be okay because I have you and Tyler and your dad. Because I have people who love me. And we have you, she said, simply. Tyler stood up from the couch. Can we do that puzzle now? And maybe play some of those old video games? Absolutely. Jake, you stay in for dinner? Jake looked around the room. At his children settling in for an afternoon of puzzles and games. At the grandfather they'd been kept from. At the family he'd almost destroyed out of fear. Yeah, Dad, I'll stay for dinner. As Emma and Tyler sorted puzzle pieces and argued about corner strategies, Jake helped me in the kitchen, just like when he was younger. We moved around each other with the comfortable efficiency of people who'd shared this space before. Dad, about Mom's things, Jake said quietly as he chopped vegetables for salad. Sandra and I thought maybe it was time to go through some of her stuff, if you're ready. I paused in my seasoning of the chicken. Linda's clothes still hung in our closet. Her books still sat on her nightstand. Her coffee cup still sat in the dish drainer where I'd placed it the morning she died. What did you have in mind? Nothing dramatic. Maybe just pack some things away. Keep the important stuff. Donate what might help other people. Emma's been asking about Grandma's jewelry. Linda had always said she wanted Emma to have her grandmother's ring when she was old enough. I'd forgotten about that. Forgotten about a lot of the plans Linda had made for a future she wouldn't see. We could do that next weekend, I said. If you want to bring the kids, I'd like that. From the living room came the sound of children laughing, Tyler explaining the rules of some ancient video game to Emma, their voices mixing with the familiar electronic bleeps and bloops I remembered from Jake's childhood. Dad, Jake's voice was quiet. I need to ask you something. I looked at him, noting how much he looked like Linda around the eyes when he was being serious. After Mom died, did you really think about, not being here anymore? The question hit me like cold water. I set down the spice bottle and really looked at my son, at the worry lines around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. Why would you ask that? Because Sandra said she was worried, because you seemed so lost, and then when we started pulling back, you seemed to get worse instead of better. Because I wondered if that's why you fought so hard to see the kids, if they were the only thing keeping you. He couldn't finish the sentence, but I understood. Jake, I won't lie to you. The first few weeks after your mother died were very dark. But I never seriously considered not being here. I had too much to live for. Like what? Like you. Like Emma and Tyler. Like the possibility that things could get better, even when they felt impossible. Jake nodded, but I could see he wasn't entirely convinced. Son, look at me. I'm 54 years old. I lost the love of my life, and yes, that nearly broke me. But I didn't lose everything. I still have my health, my house, my pension. I still have a son who, despite his flaws, is a good man and a good father. I still have grandchildren who light up when they see me. That's more than a lot of people have. But the drinking. 3 beers at your barbecue is not drinking, Jake. If I were drinking the way you seem to think I am, would I have kept such detailed records of our conversations? Would I be this coherent? He had the grace to look embarrassed. I guessed I was looking for reasons to justify what I was doing. We all were. You were scared. Sandra was protective. I was desperate. Nobody was thinking clearly. From the living room, Grandpa, Dad, come see this. We walked out to find Emma had completed an entire corner of the puzzle, while Tyler had somehow unlocked a secret level on the old Nintendo. "Look, it's the warp zone!" Tyler exclaimed. "I remember you showing me this when I was little." "You remember that?" "Yeah. You said it was like finding a shortcut through life, but you had to know exactly where to look for it." I'd forgotten saying that, but it sounded like something I would have said. It also sounded like advice I could use now. "Emma, how's that puzzle coming?" "It's hard, but I found all the edge pieces. Mom says that's the most important part, finding the boundaries first." More inadvertent wisdom from Sandra, delivered through a 12-year-old. Find the boundaries first. Maybe that's what we'd all been trying to do these past months, figure out where the edges were in this new version of our family. My phone buzzed with a text. "Sandra, how's it going? The kids okay?" I showed the message to Jake. What should I tell her? Tell her the truth. I typed back, "Kids are great. We're all talking honestly for the first time in months. Thank you for making Jake come today." Her response came quickly. "He needed the push. You all did. Save me some dinner if you're cooking." I looked at Jake. "Sandra wants to come to dinner? If that's okay with you." It was more than okay. It felt like the missing piece of a puzzle we'd all been trying to solve separately. An hour later, Sandra arrived with a bottle of wine and what looked like a peace offering, a photo album I hadn't seen before. "I made this for the kids," she explained, as Emma and Tyler crowded around her. "Pictures of all of us together over the years, including lots of you and Linda, David." The album was beautiful, professional quality with careful attention to chronology and design. Pictures of birthday parties, Christmas mornings, Little League games, school plays. Linda and me at Emma's baptism. Jake teaching Tyler to ride a bike. Sandra and Linda laughing over some long-forgotten joke at a family barbecue. "Sandra, this is incredible," I said, paging through years of memories. "You must have spent hours on this." I wanted the kids to remember that we used to be happy together, all of us, that we can be again. Emma was pointing to a picture of Linda helping her bake cookies. "I remember this. Grandma let me crack the eggs, even though I got shells in the bowl. She saved the shells out when you weren't looking. She said it was more important for you to feel helpful than for the cookies to be perfect." "That sounds like Mom," Jake said softly. "She was always more concerned about people than things." We spent dinner looking through the album, sharing stories and filling in details the kids didn't remember or had been too young to understand. Tyler, learning that the reason his third birthday party was held at our house was because Linda had insisted when Sandra was too overwhelmed with the new baby to manage a party. Emma discovering that the reason I'd always brought her special art supplies was because Linda had noticed her talent and made me promise to encourage it. "Grandpa," Emma said as we were clearing dishes, "can I ask you something about Grandma?" "Of course." "Do you think she's sad that we stopped seeing each other? Like from heaven?" I stopped loading the dishwasher and really considered the question. What would Linda think about the past 8 months? About the family schism that had developed in the wake of her death? "I think Grandma would be disappointed in all of us," I said finally. "She would understand why it happened, but she'd be disappointed that we let fear and hurt feelings become more important than family." "What would she want us to do now?" Tyler asked. "Exactly what we're doing, talking honestly, forgiving each other, making sure this doesn't happen again." Sandra spoke up from the kitchen table. "David, I owe you an apology too. I went along with Jake's plan because I thought it was easier than dealing with complicated family dynamics. I was wrong." "Sandra, you were trying to protect your kids. I understand that. But I was also protecting myself. It was easier to keep the kids away from your grief than to help them understand it." Emma looked confused. "What's wrong with being sad about Grandma?" "Nothing, sweetheart," Sandra explained. "Adults sometimes think kids can't handle sad things, so we try to hide them or fix them instead of just letting people feel them." "That's dumb," Tyler said matter-of-factly. "We know when adults are sad. Pretending you're not just makes us worry more." Another moment of clarity from a 14-year-old. We'd been so busy protecting the children from grief that we'd forgotten they were grieving too. For Linda, for the family closeness they'd lost, for the grandfather who'd seemingly disappeared from their lives. As the evening wound down, we made plans. Real plans with specific dates and times. Emma's next school concert. I'd be there. Tyler's basketball tournament. Jake would send me the schedule. Thanksgiving dinner. We'd have it here. All of us, together, the way Linda would have wanted. When it was time for them to leave, Emma hugged me tightly at the door. "Grandpa, I'm glad you're not disappearing anymore." "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart." Tyler, showing the emotional awareness that always surprised me, added, "And we're not going anywhere either." Jake was the last to leave. We stood on the front porch, two men who'd almost lost each other to pride and fear and the terrible weight of unspoken needs. "Dad, I know I can't undo the past 8 months. You don't need to undo anything. We just need to do better going forward." "I want to do better. I want to be the son Mom raised, not the scared man I became." "Your mother raised a good man, Jake. He just got lost for a while." He hugged me then, the first real hug we'd shared since Linda's funeral. It felt like coming home. After they left, I sat in the quiet house with Sandra's photo album open on my lap. The pictures told the story of a family that had survived divorce, remarriage, illness, financial stress, teenage rebellion, and countless small dramas. We'd weathered all of that together. Linda's death had almost broken us, but maybe that's what some losses do. They show you what really matters by threatening to take it away. I opened my phone and scrolled through the months of saved text messages one more time. The evidence of distance, of deception, of a family coming apart, but also evidence of persistence, of love that refused to be extinguished, of children who kept reaching for a grandfather they missed. I started a new text thread, adding Jake, Sandra, Emma, and Tyler. "Thank you for today. I love you all. See you soon." Emma responded first, "Love you too, Grandpa." Then Tyler, "Thanks for not giving up on us." Sandra, "Looking forward to Thanksgiving planning." And finally Jake, "Love you, Dad. See you next Sunday?" "Wouldn't miss it," I typed back. I set the phone down and walked to Linda's chair, the one I'd left untouched for 8 months. I sat down carefully, feeling the familiar contours where her body had shaped the cushions. "Well, Lynn," I said to the empty room, "I think we're going to be okay." Outside, snow was beginning to fall, the first of the season, fat flakes drifting past the windows like a benediction. Inside, the house felt warm and lived in again, full of the echoes of children's laughter and the promise of family dinners to come. I thought about Emma's question. Would Linda be sad about our estrangement? Probably, but she'd also be proud that we'd found our way back to each other. She'd always believed that love was stronger than fear, that honesty was stronger than pride, that family was worth fighting for, even when fighting seemed impossible. Tomorrow, I'd start planning Thanksgiving dinner. I'd call Emma's school about her winter concert. I'd ask Tyler about his basketball schedule. I'd rebuild the daily connections that make a family more than just shared DNA. But tonight, I'd sit in my wife's chair and remember what she'd taught me about loving imperfect people perfectly, about forgiving without keeping score, about holding on to hope even when hope felt foolish. The snow kept falling, covering the suburban landscape in pristine white, a clean slate, a fresh start, a chance to get it right this time. I pulled out my phone one more time and opened the camera, taking a picture of the view from Linda's chair, snow falling past the living room window, the warm light spilling onto the front yard, the sense of peace that comes from being exactly where you belong. Then I sent it to the family group chat with a simple message, "Home." The responses came quickly. Emma, "Pretty." Tyler, "Cool snow." Sandra, "Beautiful picture, David." Jake, "Thanks for today, Dad, for everything." I looked around the living room, at the completed puzzle Emma had worked on, at the video game still paused on the screen, at the photo album Sandra had made, at the manila folder of evidence that had brought us back together. My name is David Peterson. I'm 54 years old, 8 months ago, I thought I was watching my family disintegrate. Tonight, I know we're putting it back together, piece by piece, conversation by conversation, honest moment by honest moment. And for the first time since Linda died, that feels like enough. The grandfather clock in the corner, another of Linda's touches, chimed 9 o'clock. Snow kept falling. The house settled around me with the comfortable sounds of home. I had my family back. We had each other. Everything else, we'd figure out as we went, just like Linda would have wanted.